Hi, Clear Spring families. It's Mrs. D back for another episode of Learning to Read with Mrs. D. And today I want to teach you a little bit about English. In my first episode, I tried to explain that learning to read is not a natural process for our brain. Our brains are wired for language, and sound, but our brains are not automatically wired to pull print off of a page and understand what it means. We have to teach that explicitly and systematically. And we've really shifted in Montgomery County Public Schools to teaching that way over the last 2 years, moving to what we call structured literacy. And using those wonderful teaching strategies, we are seeing great results with our students really learning to decode English automatically and accurately. But what is it about English that makes it kind of challenging to learn how to read? Sometimes kids break the code and we don't even know why, but that's a very small percentage. About 1 to 5% of the population learns to read without any teaching at all. Somehow they just pick it up. But 95% of our population needs to be taught how to read explicitly and systematically. And English is not a phonetic language. What I mean by that is one letter does not necessarily equal one sound in English. Unlike the beautiful language of Spanish, which is a phonetic language, English has some different quirks to it. I call them quirks. But let's dig down into what English really is and what it's made up of. Well, we have an alphabet in English, right? We have 26 letters in that alphabet. But how many sounds do those letters make in our alphabet? It's not 26. We have 44 units of sound in English. So we have 26 letters, but we've got 44 sounds. You've got it. You know our vowels in English, A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y? Well, that's 5 vowels, right? A, E, I, O, U. But those 5 vowels make 20 different sounds based on other letters that they're next to. We've got to teach that. We've got to teach all those different combinations. So here are some statistics on English. We have 26 letters. With those 26 letters, we have 44 sounds. We have 5 vowels that make 20 sounds. So with that being said, there are 250 different combinations of letters to make those units of sound in English. That's why it's challenging. So we have 26 letters that make 44 units of sound in 250 different combinations. What do you mean by that? How does that work? Well, let me give you an example of a sound in many of our English words, the f sound, right? The f sound is generally made by the letter F in English. I'm sorry if this is backwards, by the way. I'll try to flip it, but we'll see if this comes in. With the letter F, right? But if we have a one-syllable word with a short vowel sound, then we double the F at the end of a word. So another combination for f is FF. And then we have a combination of the f sound made by P and H for phone and photograph, right? And then we have one more combination for the f sound in English of GH. When I say the word laugh, laugh does not end in an F. Laugh ends in GH. So for the f sound in English, we have 4 different combinations on how to make that sound. That's why English can be a little tricky. There are a lot of different combinations. And what we're doing, starting in kindergarten all the way up through grade 5, is systematically and explicitly teaching those units of sound when they are used most frequently in English, we teach that in the lower grades. And as we have those less frequent combinations like GH and PH, we teach those more towards second grade and above because they're not used as much in English. But I think it's always fun to understand that English is not phonetic and that there are 26 letters making 44 sounds in 250 different combinations. Yep, that's what we're doing here at school every day. And that's sometimes why that process can be kind of challenging. But here's the great news. Once we teach our students and they remember those combinations and they learn to look for those combinations within words, 98% of English is decodable, which means we can decode it based on learning those combinations and units of sound. And that's really exciting. Well, Mrs. D, how do I help my kiddo at home? I'm so glad you were thinking about that question, because a way that you can help your kiddos at home is to play with sound. What do you mean play with sound? Let me teach you a few tricks and give you one very interesting statistic. 80% of students who struggle with learning how to read or to read quickly, 80% of them, research has shown, have a weak part of their brain called the phonological processor. It's where we distinguish sound. It's not necessarily that the children can't learn the combination of letters to pick them up off the page, but they have trouble managing the sound. Doesn't mean they have a hearing problem. It just means they have trouble putting the combination of letters and the sound together. So what can we do at home that costs nothing? It's absolutely free. You can play with sound with your kiddos. You can do things like syllable work, such as taking compound words and having your kiddo put them together. Hey, my love, you could do this in the car sitting at a red light. Say cup, say cake, put it together, cupcake. Say rain, say bow, put them together, rainbow. For our older students, you can give them multisyllabic words. How many syllables are in independent? Independent, 4 syllables. Once we break big words into small units of sounds and learn the sound combinations that are in there with their letters and graphemes, we can spell really big words just by breaking them into their syllables. So play with syllables. Independent. Well, what's the first syllable? In. What combination of letters makes in? In. What do you hear in the syllable D? D, E. What do you hear in the syllable pen? P, E, N. And talk about the letters and the sounds that you hear in those words. Easy way to play with sound. It costs us nothing. Sing those fun little nursery rhymes to your kiddo. I know they can hear them on their tablets, right? Because we have wonderful apps and tablets and things like that. But the phonological processor doesn't get fully developed, friends, if the kids aren't saying it too. And so that's why if they're interacting on a tablet, you want to encourage them to say everything out loud that they're learning on their tablet or sing their song out loud on their tablet. Okay? That helps develop that phonological processor in the brain, and it helps us play with units of sound. There was an old rhyme and song that I used to do with my kindergartners, and it's the song Bingo. There was a farmer who had a dog, and Bingo was his name. Oh, B-I-N-G-O, 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 and Bingo was his name. Oh, and then we delete letters off of that. There was a farmer who had a dog, and Bingo was his name. Oh, I-N-G-O. Play with sound. Delete sound. Put new sounds in. Take cat and make it bat. What changed? The beginning of the word. Take bat and make it bit. What part of the word changed? The middle part of the word, the vowel sound. Take bit and make it, I'm trying to think of a word, bin. What changed that time? The end of the word. So bit ended in t, which is T. Now we're making it bin, and it's going to end in an N. Swap out units of sounds, which swap out the graphemes, and you start making tons of words without even knowing it. I encourage you to work with your kiddos on sound. I encourage you to learn a little bit more about English. You can Google anything about it. Again, we have 26 letters, 44 units of sounds in 250 different combinations. And we're teaching those every single day to your kiddos. And I encourage you to work on that at home with your friends as well. Have an amazing day, and I look forward to seeing you next time.